we curse from birth, immersed in the wickedness of the earth. Hating God, we are carnal, don't want him, it all it hurts.
What up, what up, what up? Your boy Regenerate back again for another album review. The album we are reviewing today is Traffic by Thre. Thre is a dope MC. Y'all have already heard me review his album, or his single for this album called Sirens, which I thought was super dope. And the album also is super dope. Now, just to put it out there before we start the review, let me explain to y'all how I listen to rap. And I think music in general, but rap in my head. My preference of hip-hop, my preference of style, specifically, I think there's something broken in my head, but specifically aggression. I like aggression. I like stuff that's hard and just in your face. I like aggressive music, which this album is not necessarily. I would say some of the content is, but especially coming off of the single Sirens, that had an aggressive feel to it. The production on both beats that were on the one song was kind of aggressive. I think Thre has a voice that works really good to be aggressive with. This album was not that. It's actually a very chill album. This is the kind of album that you sort of just cruise around listening to. You know what I mean? Something that you go for a drive, listen to. Now, it's not that this man lacks any lyricism at all. There's plenty of it. There's plenty of punchlines. Dude is doing his thing. This dude can write. This man writes good music. This man writes good songs. This man is a good writer. This man can rap. He's spitting on here, right? But it's really chill, and it's actually kind of a lot of chill, which I will say threw me off because, again, I was expecting aggression. But I guess from all of Thre's music, for the most part, that has been out previously, for the most part, he's not an aggressive MC as far as the way the music sounds. So once I got over because when I heard it being so chill, I was kind of like, oh, man. But then once I was able to accept it for what it was and listen to it through that lens and that filter, I'm like, this is a solid album. One of the singles, actually, Chi-Town, I actually told Thre, like, man, I wasn't a big fan of this song. The video was super dope. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I wasn't a fan of the song because, again, here's where my mind works. It kicks in, right? The way my mind works kicks in. I saw Thre, one of my favorite spitter in Chicago. He puts out a single titled Chi-Town. I automatically think this thing's going to have to be real aggressive. It's going to be real hard in your face. It was not that, right? It was a chill song. It was a feel-good song. Because I now understand, especially listening to it in the context of all of the album, that single really specifically stood out to me. I was like, yo, he actually killed this song. The album changed my view on that song. I was like, wow, that's actually a really solid song. I thought he killed that song. And yeah, that definitely was worthy of making a single. I think it is one of the better songs on this album. But yeah, the album is really dope. I think the production sounded amazing as far as how full it sounded. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to explain fullness, but like, I don't know. If sound was like limited to space, it would fill the room, so to speak. Like it's really high quality production, I think. Now, what I liked about this album that is a thing for me that I like about albums is when the album specifically it sounds similar throughout the entire thing. Not that every beat sounds exactly the same, but there's a consistent theme of how the production sounds and flows from start to finish. This had that as well. Something you're always going to get from Thre, which he did on this album all throughout, is to give you the gospel. Jesus dying for your sins. Jesus being the only hope to get your life right, to be made right with God. Is all throughout this album. It's all throughout the songs on this thing. Another thing that I think worked as far as making a chill album, and I just think Thre has a real good voice for rapping. But you can almost, even though he's rapping chill on here, I feel like you can hear the pain in his voice on most of this album, because one theme that is touched on throughout the entire project is the brokenness of Chicago. Again, I'm from Chicago, he's from Chicago, so I relate to it a lot more, because as he's talking about going through these neighborhoods and seeing the brokenness, I've literally driven through these neighborhoods as well and lived in some of these neighborhoods as well where you see the brokenness. And so he really sounds broken about it, though. This isn't an album where he's like coming at them for being broken and messed up. You're all sinful. You need it. He's just like, I'm hurt when I see it. I look at it and it pains me to see this because I know God has made humanity for much more than this. And for whatever reason, all kinds of different things, but there's so many lies in the world and in these communities about what it means to live life and what kind of life you should be living. Or even more so like the standard of living or what it is to live life. And he's saying, no, God is calling you to more. And so when you see people not living the way God has made them to, it grieves your heart. But it just comes across as very genuine, which I believe it is, in his music, that he really cares about the people in these communities. He's really hurt to see them broken. One thing that I love too was not just, so side note, one of my annoyances as a Christian is when people say, all you can do is pray. That makes me crazy because, like, actually we can do more than just pray. We can give the gospel, which is the power of God to salvation. But that's me saying that is not to negate prayer. And in fact, I think a lot of people like myself oftentimes do negate prayer because we're just like, just preach the gospel, 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 and they get never praying. But prayer and the gospel preaching are to go together. Your gospel preaching in a lot of ways is I wouldn't say ineffective, but I think weakened when it's not bathed in prayer, so to speak. We need to be communing with the Father to make sure that we're filled by that Spirit, and when we are speaking God's truth, God is, I don't know, there's something deeper there that we see in Scripture that prayer, when something is covered in prayer, it's just there's power in prayer, to say that. And I think him on this project more than I would say any other Christian rapper I've ever heard, he highlights prayer in here a lot. That's something he talks about a lot in multiple songs. Prayer. We need to be praying. We need to be talking to the Father. All our efforts are in vain if we're not praying. We need to be praying, right? So praying for these people to get out of these situations. You got to be praying. Prayer is very much highlighted in this project, and that's something I really enjoyed and appreciated him for. There's a lot of practical stuff. He's got a song on here called Road Rage. I thought this was an interesting song. I don't know if I've really ever heard a song about this. But he had a song on here talking about like serving other people. But in the song, he's talking about like being on the road and homeless people. Again, something you see in Chicago all the time. Homeless people in the middle of the street at every traffic light stop. They're asking for money. And so in the song, he's talking about like, I see him and I'm like annoyed, and then I drive away feeling bad about it. Lord, forgive me. I should have helped him out. And that song was also dope because he had sermon clips from Tony Evans, and I don't think in Christian hip hop you ever like hear him sampled on anything. So that was dope. But I think songs like that are challenging, and it's something that he does throughout this project, just pointing out like practical ways we can actually serve, like what it looks like to take the gospel and actually walk it out. Right, what it means if you believe this. Okay, so if you believe this gospel and you're a Christian, how does it impact how you engage with these people in these communities? And when I say these people, I just mean like non-Christians. But anyway, he had a song here called Pedal to the Metal that really stood out to me, which was, from my listens, what I understood, people passing away who either you did share the gospel with or you didn't give them enough, but they died not knowing Christ. And that pain and that burden there. It's a lot of pain on this album. As chill as it is, as much as you could just ride to it, it's a lot of pain. And again, like I said, I think you hear it in his voice and just the content of the music. It's heavy stuff. And maybe I'm giving him more credit than what he was actually trying to do. But maybe that's the intention and the purpose of having the kind of production you had on there. Like, I know what I'm going to say is really heavy, so I don't want this to be like a NF album, like Mad Depressing, but let me make it feel almost lighthearted in a sense as far as the beats, so that you're not bogged down by all just darkness, the content and the beats, right? Let me not have dark sounding beats, let the content be what it is, but let me give it in a format that's a little bit lighter. Maybe that wasn't in his head at all. That's just me thinking through it. That's kind of that. It works for me in that way too. I like a song called Dream Big. Again, I think Thre's context, as far as I understand it, is the hood. And so he got a song here called Dream Big featuring Tone Spain. Shout out to him. And the idea is essentially pursue the dreams God has given you. He's not saying chase your dreams no matter what it is. It's like whatever God has laid on your heart, whatever God has called you to, essentially, chase that thing, go hard after that thing. And I think in the context he's coming from, he probably doesn't see, people who are encouraged to go after that thing they want to be. Right? There's probably a lot of settling for what's right before your eyes. I'm like, this is all life is. He's like, nah, God has called you to some things. Go chase after those things. It was kind of an encouraging song. And I think for his ministry context. So I love that too. I love when an artist is making music that you can tell is coming from a genuine place of where they serve consistently, right? Because as Christian artists, again, we talking about Christian hip hop. In Christian hip hop, what you want, I don't know if this happens, but I know at one time this was like the culture of Christian hip hop. But what you're saying on the mic, you better be doing in real life. I don't know if that's really a thing people are doing anymore, but I believe that Thre is doing that. And so I think it's rare to hear nowadays, but I love when you hear the ministry a person does in everyday life coming out in their music. He probably can listen to this album and it be a soundtrack to literally what he's doing all the time or where he's ministering at. And I think that's something that's rare in Christian hip hop. I don't think you hear that a lot nowadays. So again, I really appreciate this dude. I think he comes across in this album as genuinely loving people and calling us as Christians to do the same. It'd be easy to listen to this album and be like, man, that's good that he does that. But I think he, like any other artist, would want his music to impact you personally, to charge you to go out and do things. Again, that at least used to be how Christian hip-hop used to be. It did that for me, especially when I was 16 and newly saved, and I'm listening to 116 and all these different people. It was encouraging me to want to go out evangelize, to go make disciples. I was encouraged to want to go do it, and the music was sort of an anthem to actually go do a thing. And I just go, wow, this is really good music, to privately pursue Jesus. Like, nah, go out. People need you. So, thought that was super dope. I love hearing his heart on this project. Another song that stood out to me was one called Low Fuel. It started with a singer on it for a minute or more, maybe almost 2 minutes. It's a woman just singing, and she's killing it. She's killing the vocals. And then there's a crazy beat switch, and Thre just started going in, rapping. And the concept of it is feeling burned out. Again, I don't hear many songs about that in the Christian hip-hop space. There probably are those songs. I can't think of any off the top. It felt like a very unique song to me. And I think that was encouraging. Like, yo, even in those moments when you're like, the idea of being burnt out by ministry. So you're doing the work of the Lord, you get tired. He's saying here, the answer is continuing to seek the Lord. When you feel like that, don't say, no more God for right now because I'm burnt out. We're talking about God. He's saying, no, that's when you need to run to him the most. And he's always there. He's always going to be there for you in those moments. There's a lot of Jesus being the only hope weaved throughout this entire project. And you really hear his heart. I don't know if I already said it, but I got emotional on 2 different songs on this album, because he really captured to me the brokenness of some of these areas in Chicago, man. And because I've driven through those areas, I was able to visualize it. That's another incredible thing he does on this project, is he's really good at describing things and giving detail, because you can see it in your mind's eye, right? When you listen to him, you're like, you can see it like a movie almost, which I think. Yeah, I think that's lacking in hip hop, because a lot of times hip hop rappers who were storytellers used to be able to put you there and do that to you, and I don't think a lot of guys really do that anymore. So, yeah, dude is another level MC, another level rapper, and this is a great album, solid album. Go listen to it. There's good hooks on here. I think he did a great job of just overall artistry, switching things up, having the singer here and just letting the singer go for minutes, and then he switched the beat here and then flowed this way and changed. There's a lot of different switches and elements. He just really killed this album. This is super dope. Go support. So much more to say. So little time. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe. And as always, until next time, go listen to Christian hip hop.